In the dark tapestry of wizarding history, no spell, no curse, no act of sorcery has cast a longer and more terrible shadow than the Horcrux, a fragment of soul, severed by the most violent act imaginable, murder, bound into an object to anchor its master against death. It is magic so profane that even the darkest wizards before Voldemort whispered of it only in theory. And yet, Tom Riddle, Lord Voldemort, not only embraced the forbidden, but perfected it. Where others feared to split their souls even once, Voldemort dared to fracture his sevenfold. Each Horcrux he created was not merely an object. It was a shrine to his obsession, a monument built in blood. But here lies the haunting question. Whose blood? Whose lives were extinguished to purchase the Dark Lord's immortality? Some names are known, others remain shrouded in mystery, hidden beneath layers of speculation, theory, and silence. But together, they form a grim ledger of Voldemort's path to power and his descent into spiritual ruin. Tonight, we open that ledger, one Horcrux at a time, one victim at a time, until every shadow has spoken. Welcome to the Forgotten Mage. The first Horcrux Voldemort ever made was the Gaunt family's ring, a relic of his pure-blood ancestry once belonging to Salazar Slytherin himself. But to seal it, Voldemort returned not to magical greatness, but to the squalid roots of his mortal bloodline. In the summer of 1943, Tom Riddle walked into Little Hangleton. The boy who had grown up in the orphanage, abandoned by a mother who died in childbirth, and despising the father who had deserted them, now sought revenge. He confronted the Muggle Tom Riddle Sr. and his grandparents. Using his mother's wand, stolen from the Gaunts, he murdered all three. The Daily Prophet reported it as a crime of passion, a spurned lover's revenge. But for Voldemort, it was more than revenge. It was ritual. By killing his father, he severed the last tie to his despised mortal heritage. By killing his grandparents, he silenced the witnesses and obliterated an entire branch of family that tethered him to weakness. And then, in the blood of his own kin, he forged his first Horcrux, the Gaunt Ring. It is fitting and grotesque that the first step toward immortality was also an act of patricide. Voldemort sought to erase his past, but in doing so, he anchored his soul to it forever. The second Horcrux is one of the greatest mysteries in the saga of Voldemort's crimes. We know the object. Salazar Slytherin's locket, stolen from Hepzibah Smith after he murdered her. But the locket itself was not made a Horcrux with her death. Instead, Voldemort used another victim, one now lost to history. Rowling herself has left this blank deliberately, suggesting that Voldemort may have killed a Muggle tramp during his wanderings, a life chosen not for symbolism, but for convenience, a life discarded as unworthy. Yet some have theorized otherwise. Could Voldemort have chosen someone of magical significance, someone whose death mirrored the power of Slytherin's legacy? What is certain is this: the locket was bound with murder. Whether of an anonymous soul or a symbolic sacrifice, the act carried the same weight. A life snuffed out, a soul torn, and another fragment locked away. This blank space in Voldemort's ledger is chilling, because it suggests that for him, killing had become routine, no longer requiring justification, merely necessity. Do you believe Voldemort's choice here was symbolic, or did he kill at random? Share your theory, because this gap in history may reveal more about Voldemort's true nature than any confirmed fact. If the locket's victim remains nameless, the cup's is tragically unforgettable. Hepzibah Smith was a wealthy witch, vain, indulgent, and overly trusting of her handsome young employee, Tom Riddle. She boasted of her treasures to him one evening, showing him both Helga Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket. Her mistake was fatal. Voldemort poisoned her and framed her house elf, Hoki. Her body was found lifeless, her collection diminished, and her legacy destroyed. It was a crime that shocked no one outside her circle. The death of a wealthy eccentric was gossip, not history. But in that death, Voldemort bound his soul once again. The irony is cruel. Hepzibah adored her cup, and Voldemort ensured that the very object she cherished would become her gravestone. Hufflepuff, the founder who valued loyalty and kindness, had her relic corrupted by betrayal and murder. The Ravenclaw diadem is another Horcrux wrapped in shadow. Voldemort unearthed it during his travels in Albania, guided by the spirit of Helena Ravenclaw, the Grey Lady. But a Horcrux requires death. Whom did Voldemort kill? The record is silent. Some believe he slew a local villager, a nameless soul lost to the woods. Others whisper that he sought out someone of intellect or descent from Ravenclaw's line to make the act more fitting. Perhaps this is Voldemort's most haunting silence, a victim erased not only from history, but from memory. Their only trace lies in a cursed diadem hidden in the shadows of Hogwarts, waiting for centuries until the Room of Requirement revealed it once more. This Horcrux is unique in its enigma. It reminds us that for every murder we can name, there are others we cannot, and that Voldemort's darkness stretches further than even the chronicles of wizarding lore record. At last, a name, a face, a voice that still echoes in the bathrooms of Hogwarts. In 1943, Tom Riddle opened the Chamber of Secrets. He unleashed the basilisk, a serpent capable of killing with a glance, and he set it upon a vulnerable student, Myrtle Warren. Myrtle's death was both cruel and calculated. Riddle needed a murder to create his Horcrux, and Myrtle, bullied, miserable, and isolated, was an easy target. Her death gave him the diary Horcrux, the first to be tied not only to his soul, but to a living echo of himself. It is a grim thought. Moaning Myrtle, who lived on as a ghost, became both a victim and a warning. For her death was not remembered as an accident, but as the secret heartbeat of the school, silenced but never forgotten. The final deliberate Horcrux was forged decades later, when Voldemort was a shadow of himself, hiding in Albania. Bertha Jorkins, a ministry witch, stumbled upon him while on holiday. Voldemort captured her, tortured her, and ripped from her mind secrets of the wizarding world. And then, when she had nothing left to give, he killed her and bound her death into Nagini, the serpent who would become both companion and Horcrux. This act is particularly cruel. Bertha was not a great witch, nor a rival, nor a threat. She was an ordinary woman who became extraordinary only by misfortune. Her death is the proof that Voldemort's killings were not always grand or symbolic. Sometimes they were simply cruel, unnecessary, and opportunistic, but it also shows his desperation. By this time, his body was frail, his power fractured. He clung to Nagini as both weapon and safeguard. Bertha Jorkins became the unwitting architect of his last Horcrux and his final bid for immortality. And then, the accident. In Godric's Hollow, Voldemort attempted to kill the infant Harry Potter. His curse rebounded, and in that violent explosion of magic, a fragment of his soul latched itself onto the only living being in the room. Harry became the unintentional Horcrux, the only one made without ritual, without choice. Voldemort never meant to tether himself to the boy who lived, yet it was this mistake that sealed his doom. Here lies the great irony. Voldemort's quest for immortality created the very bond that would lead to his destruction. By anchoring part of his soul within Harry, he ensured that his fate and Harry's were intertwined forever. When we look at Voldemort's Horcruxes, we see more than artifacts. We see a ledger of death. A father murdered to erase a shameful heritage. A wealthy witch slain for her treasures. A lonely girl abandoned in death as in life. A ministry worker unlucky enough to stumble upon evil. Countless unnamed, their lives extinguished and forgotten. Each Horcrux is not merely an object. It is a gravestone. Each relic carries a whisper of the soul it consumed, and each stands as testimony to the truth that immortality cannot be purchased without consequence. Voldemort believed he had conquered death, but in reality, every life he took carved another scar in his soul, weakening the very essence he sought to preserve. And in the end, it was not the Horcruxes that kept him alive, but the irony of fate, a fragment in Harry Potter, the boy destined to bring him down. So we must ask, what is immortality worth if every step toward it leaves behind only corpses and shadows? Voldemort's answer was written in blood, but his end was written in prophecy. Which Horcrux murder do you think reveals the most about Voldemort's character? His patricide, his cruelty to Myrtle, or his opportunism with Bertha Jorkins? Share your thoughts, and let the ledger of Voldemort's victims speak on.